When I was 17, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for small town girls and soft summer nights. We'd hide from the lights on the village green. When I was 17. When I was 21, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for city girls who lived up the stair with all that perfumed hair. And it came undone when I was 21. When I was 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for blue-blooded girls of independent means. We'd ride in limousines. Their chauffeurs would drive. When I was 35. But now the days are short. I'm in the autumn of the year, and now I think of my life as vintage wine from fine old kegs, from the brim to the dregs. It poured sweet and clear. It was a very good year.
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are from Alfred Lord Tennyson. No matter our age, no matter our infirmities, that which we are, which is to say, still human, and thus still hungry for having meaning or purpose in our lives. And so I just want to welcome you with, live from Fellowship Hall, it's our LCUUF Sunday service. Our announcements were on a slideshow before the service. If you didn't see them, don't worry. They will be sent by email in the next day or so. A few notes. Our building is now open to all fully vaccinated participants. We will continue to offer our service on Zoom as we welcome people to the building. We ask people here to continue to wear masks in the building to help prevent the spread of breakthrough COVID infections. And now a special welcome to our visitors. If you're visiting with us for the first time or have returned or reconnected with us after a long absence, we invite you to say your name and tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, use the Zoom raise hand feature or just turn your video on and wave your hand, and we'll ask you to unmute. If you're in the room, just raise your hand. Name and
My name is Susie Seibert, but I've now been named Susie Seattle because there's so many Susans and Susies. And I'm from Seattle.
okay. Anything else?
I'm very happy to be back. Thank you.
You're here.
Thank you.
I'm Susie Wagner, Susie the cutest. We all have names, and you know. And anyway, I used to come regularly, and then I stopped, and it's so good to see, well, new faces too, and old faces. And it's a pleasure to be here. And we just reconnected and realized that she's older than me. Yes or no?
By 5 days.
Well, that's good enough. That's enough for me, yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Now let's switch to those in Zoom.
No one from Zoom, I think.
Our chalice lighting words today. Birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is a loss of light, but no less an act of courage, for we are born from and return to mystery. Now, let us light our chalice with these words that we sing together. Our hymn is number 352, Find a Stillness.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Each week, we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. We do this by sharing any significant joys or sorrows in our lives. If you have a joy or sorrow to share today, you can type it into the chat now and we'll read those aloud. First, let's voice our sorrows or concerns, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. You're welcome to type sorrows and concerns in the chat box. First, we'll start with the folks here to give you on Zoom time to type. Are there any sorrows or concerns that people would like to share here in the room?
My name is Lou. It is with great sadness that I learned our friend John Betts has been diagnosed with cancer and returning permanently to Canada.
Hi, I'm Colleen Beery. I just wanted to voice concern for my friends David and Claudio, who are both facing some difficult health challenges.
Please light a candle for Esther Jones, who passed recently, and also for Deb Gang, who fell last weekend and broke her arm and had to have surgery.
Now let us recall the joys, whatever you may be
Let's do the Zoom
don't see it.
concerns first. First,
Zoom
Liz
sorrows,
Mulder.
please.
Liz Mulder has a concern for Sharon Robinson, who's just been diagnosed with pneumonia. She just emailed that she's at least feeling well enough to attend this Sunday's UU service in the building. Send good energy to Sharon and or give her a special smile when you see her. She deserves it. And then from Joan Moore, a sorrow, saddened by the sudden death of a friend, Janet's husband, Dan Melbourne. And from John DeWall, he wanted to share his concern for John Betts. And that's it for Zoom concerns.
Now let us recall the joys, whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others. You're welcome to type joys in the chat box. Again, we'll start with the folks here. Are there any joys that people would like to share here in the room?
Yeah, Kathy and I have a joy. On Tuesday, we celebrate 31 years together. She's been the love of my life. So, that's our anniversary. We're actually 36 years together living.
Hi, it's Paula Odom, and I have a joy that we had a new member orientation yesterday, and we have 5 new members, and Kathleen is one of our new members, the service leader.
I'm David, and I want to celebrate my cousin Celia, who I spoke with recently. And I said, Celia, how you doing? And she said, David, I'm dying from the bottom up. And I want to celebrate her incredible sense of humor. She's several years my senior, and she is a joy.
And Zoom.
Now we have several joys here. First is from Ann Morris. She says, I'm feeling joyous about being a part of this community. Thanks for the warm welcome and the history and useful information that was shared yesterday. And then from Doug Mattoon, he says, a candle of joy at seeing Susie Cutie back. And from Joyce Kimball, my sister Scarlett, who's also a writer and artist, came home from the hospital in time for her art exhibition on Saturday. Go, Charlotte! Go for the finish line! Charlotte is almost 90 and still calls her own shots. In our last conversation, we agreed that we are happy campers, for you can't ask for much more than that. And that's what we have.
And this candle from our care team represents those sorrows that are too raw, too difficult for us to share aloud. So many of us have had losses, partners, children, grandchildren, losses that remain present with us every day. So many of us have burdens, anger, fear, and frustration, all of those things that weigh heavy on our hearts. We will light this candle for all those unspoken sorrows. Our responsive reading today is by Walt Whitman. And is entitled Song of the Open Road. I will read the italics, and you please read the bold along with Kathy. Afoot and lighthearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me.
Henceforth I ask not good fortune. I myself am good fortune, strong and content. I travel the open road.
I inhale great draughts of space. The east and west are mine, and the north and the south are mine.
All seems beautiful to me. I can repeat over to men and women, you have done such good to me. I would do the same to you.
Whoever you are, come travel with me. However sweet these lit up stores, however convenient this dwelling, we cannot remain here.
However sheltered this port, and however calm these waters, we must not anchor here.
Together, the inducements shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas.
We will go where winds blow, waves dash, and the Yankee clipper speeds by under full sail.
Forward, after the great companions, and to belong to them. They too are on the road.
Onward to that which is endless, as it was beginningless, to undergo much, tramps of days, rests of nights.
To see nothing anywhere but what you may reach it and pass it, to look up or down no road, but it stretches and waits for you.
To know the universe itself as a road, as many roads, as roads for traveling souls.
Good morning. Many years ago, when my husband asked me to marry him, we had a dilemma about where to get married, as we were unable to remarry in the Catholic Church. Peter had attended a Universalist fellowship in the past and suggested the minister would be willing to marry us. I had never heard of Unitarian Universalism before. We had a wonderful ceremony, and that piqued my interest into such a fellowship. But there were none in the area where we lived, so that was the end of that. Many years later, we started visiting the Lake Chapala area. One day, Peter saw a small ad in the local newspaper about a UU fellowship meeting every Sunday. We went to the service and have been with LCUUF ever since. It was a small group of lay-led services with an accordion to help us sing the hymns. Boy, have we come a long way since then. We have grown into a wonderful, safe, friendly, and accepting place with great services, both lay-led and also with Reverend Matt. Since COVID, we have shifted to online services with a wonderful crew of innovative and hardworking technicians. Oh yes, and we have great music too. But none of this would be possible without all of us pulling our financial resources together. Peter and I pledge because we want to see this wonderful fellowship continue to grow successfully. As you know, the LCUUF pledge campaign is underway and will conclude on December the 5th. We are asking everyone to send in your pledge by email to treasure@lakechapalauu.org or to use one of the paper pledge forms on the welcome table and put it in the offering basket. State your pledge as an annual amount for the next fiscal year starting February the 1st, 2022. Be sure to designate the currency as pesos, US, or Canadian dollars. As of Wednesday, November the 3rd, the pledge team has received pledges totaling 529,500 Mexican pesos for 22 pledge units. We have not received any new pledges in the last week, so I would like to encourage those who have not yet sent in their pledge to do so as soon as possible. Please join us in continuing to make LCUUF a wonderful place to be part of.
What a blessing it is to give and receive, to share and support this church where we love, where justice and equality inspire our acts of service and compassion. We dedicate these gifts to all that we stand for as a community of faith. Reverend Suzelle Lynch. This is the time in our service when we ask that you remember that we share our gifts here through pledging and donations. Instructions for payments to the fellowship are on a slide during the announcements before the service each week. For the people here at the fellowship, we'll pass a basket. And while you're considering your gifts to the fellowship, remember that each month, LCUUF donates 5,000 pesos or more to an organization in our lakeside community. We share 1/2 of the offering collected at the fellowship each week with that organization. For the month of November, we are supporting Operation Feed. Our donations to Operation Feed have helped them to support 20 more families in recent months. If you're not attending the fellowship in person, please donate to Share the Basket when you pay your pledge. Donate to Share the Basket separately or indicate what part of your donation is for Share the Basket. The offering has been given and received.
This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. It was in the summer of our lives when Kathy and I were full of energy and had all our hopes and dreams in front of us. It was during this time we went to visit Kathy's sister and brother-in-law in Boca Raton, Florida. We needed a place to stay, as they arranged a room for us at a place called Bocateca Hotel. Unbeknownst to us, this hotel was associated with a Jewish retirement community. Our first clue was when they delivered the daily paper under our door, and it was in Hebrew. The first morning, we woke up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and headed for breakfast. As we reached the elevator, we were joined by a little old Jewish man about 5 foot tall, bent over and using a cane. Being polite, we wished him a good morning and asked, "How are you today?" He replied, "Alive, thank God, another day." We, of course, were very bemused and thought it was a humorous answer. Now we are in the winter of our lives, and I think about that phrase a lot. Alive, thank God, another day. It has stayed with me for over 30 years. Each day I contemplate its meaning. It is a profound and constant reminder to me that we are on a journey, and that journey is finite, and that every moment is precious. Satchel Paige asked, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?" I agree with Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said, "Old age is 15 years older than I am." At the men's movie group a few years ago, we were discussing our capabilities. I remember Fred Harland asking if anyone else felt that they were now limited in what they can do, that they can't run as fast or do some of the physical activities they once did. And we all agreed this was so. I always think, I can't scamper up those pyramids anymore like I once did. I don't walk as fast as I did a couple of years ago. I still walk. As I get older, I have discovered that I and probably most of us just don't have the energy we did when we were younger. That means we need to be more selective about where we expend our time and energy. This can open doors for creativity and new experiences, but it can also dissuade us from trying something new. Of course, if the changes in our bodies prevent us from doing something we have enjoyed in our earlier years, we may be more open to trying new things that require less energy or stamina. I think this idea is summed up well in a song by Peter Mayer. I'm like one of those Japanese bowls that were made long ago. I have some cracks in me. They have been filled with gold. That's what they used back then when they had a bowl to mend. It did not hide the cracks. It made them shine instead. So now every old scar shows from every time I broke, and anyone's eyes can see I'm not what I used to be. But in the collector's mind, all of these jagged lines make me more beautiful and worth a much higher price. I am like one of those Japanese bowls. I was made long ago. I have some cracks you can see. See how they shine of gold? No matter our age, our infirmities, that which we are, which is still human and still hungry for having meaning and purpose in our lives. All our life is a spiritual journey, whether or not we look at it that way, whether or not we are able to see it that way. Each day brings challenges and possibilities. Just moving through the day is a journey, and we end up in a different place than we began, as a different person than we were. Joan Chitlesser, a Benedictine nun and author, says, "If truth were told, it is really the elderly who have the option to become new again. With the children on their own and the house paid for, with our dues paid to social system and our identity stripped away from what we do to what we are, we have the world at our feet again. We can do all the things we've put aside for years. Learn to play the guitar, go back to school, volunteer in areas we have always wanted to do more of. We can now get up every morning to begin life all over again. The blessings of life now lies in the realization that life is not over, but beginning again in a whole new way." When we retired, we gained the opportunity to redefine ourselves. We may feed our spirit by finding new loves and passions, perhaps very different from how we earned our living. At 70, 80, or 90, it means approaching the break of day as though it were the first morning. It means hearing the bird's song as if it was the first bird. It means encountering every day as a recreation of the first, just as glorious, fresh, and beautiful. The newness and sense of adventure comes from being able to see possibilities opening up to us, to know the rows will open, to see options to choose from, even as there is a sense of life's limitations and finitude drawing closer. I am also seeking more mindfulness, finding time just to be. Savor the basic pleasure of being alive, the special qualities of changing light and sky, the beauty of the natural world. Though I admit that more often my busyness thwarts this instinct. I know that this is the key to staying fully alive and engaged when physical horizons are now forced to narrow. In the words of UU poet May Sarton, I am moving forward toward a new freedom, born of detachment, a sweeter grace, learning to let go. I have a great teacher in practicing mindfulness and living in the moment. She is my little dog, Carrie. She's always there, right at the moment, no matter what we are doing, fully focused, fully engaged, not thinking of the past, not looking towards the future, just being, reminding me of Robert Ingersoll's quote, "The place to be happy is here. The time to be happy is now." In a sermon given by our own Bill Freyer about 10 years ago, he says that spirit is our vital center, or our core, and the spiritual are things which support that center, those things which enliven us and give us sense of courage or heart for living. Spiritual experiences are those events in life, moments in relationships which attune us to that vital or animating force within, and which gives greater meaning and depth to our day-to-day living. Those things which feed our spirit at age 80 are different from those which fed our spirit at age 40. As we age, we may find more of a need for spiritual practice and a spiritual community. No matter how curmudgeonly we may want to be, we are called to interact with others in ways that show respect, evidence mature levels of responsibility for our actions, and result in acceptance, love, and justice towards others. No matter how old we get to be, no matter what circumstances of our aging and dying, I believe that within our relationships with other people and through our unique experience of being alive, flashes of insights, moments of healing, and transformation are always possible. I encourage people to stay open to the fullness of experience, whether sorrowful or joyful, and the wisdom that will yet come to them. For through these deeply felt experiences, their life will be changed and made richer, if they allow it to be. To quote George Burns, who lived to be 100 years old, "You can't help getting older. You don't have to get old." Even if our advanced age limits some of the things we might want to do, we can still do a good job of living out our Unitarian Universalist principles and help to shape a better, healthier, and more wonderful world. Albert Einstein summed it up perfectly. Life is a preparation for the future, and the best preparation for the future is to live as if there were none. Do not grow old, no matter how long you live. Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born. Here this morning, you've listened to my story of being brought right down to earth, of coming to understand that the spiritual journey that is aging, that is living, is here and now for every one of us. It is not only about how we think about our life, it is about how we live our life. Feet on the ground, eyes and ears open. Here in this community, we can practice and learn, seeing one another, really seeing, listening to one another, really listening, without judging, without fixing, without imposing ourselves on someone else. And that is a practice that, in Parker Palmer's words, makes demands on us even as it sustains our lives. That not only transforms the world, but also transforms us. Take a moment now, in stillness, in silence, to stop, to pay attention just to where you are going. To pay attention not to just to where you are going, but also to where you are. And to the gift that is just being just there.
Let us extinguish our chalices with these words, which we read together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
Our whole lives we are aging. You and I, each of us, are aging every moment. And every moment we have the choice to say yes to life. We can begin again in a whole new way. Those who are older are in a unique position to do so. There is an invitation and a spiritual imperative to be at ease with whatever comes and to be ready for the next adventure. We can learn to be at ease with whatever comes and to be ready for that next adventure. How will you face this challenge to become new again? What adventures await you? How will you say yes to life, to truth, to love?
Poor boy, downhearted and depressed and in a spin. Poor boy, oh, youth can really do a fellow in. lovely to sit here in the shade with none of the woes of man and maid. I'm glad I'm not young anymore. The rivals that don't exist at all, the feeling you're only 2 feet tall. I'm glad that I'm not young anymore. No more confusion, no morning after surprise, no self-delusion that when you're telling those lies, she isn't wise. And even if love comes through the door, the kind that goes on forevermore, forevermore is shorter than before. Oh, I'm so glad that I'm not young anymore. The tiny remark that tortures you, the fear that your friends won't like her too. I'm glad I'm not young anymore. The longing to end the stale affair until you find out she doesn't care. I'm glad that I'm not young anymore. No more frustration, no star-crossed lover am I, no aggravation, just one reluctant reply. Lady, goodbye. The fountain of youth is dull as paint. Methuselah is my patron saint. I've never been so comfortable before.